Good evening. This is the last session of the Emerging Value Forum. We will talk about digital sovereignty between Africa and Europe, about the digital community, about the sovereignty between two twin continents, as Jean-Claude Juncker used to put it. So how can we promote this common digital fate for Africa and Europe? Weeks from the French presidency of the Council of the EU and ahead of the Africa-Europe Summit. So that's the reason why we organize these high-level discussions. So we are soon to be at the Africa-Europe Summit, a summit that brings together European, African stakeholders as well as other actors, among them the minister responsible for entrepreneurship of women and young people in Senegal. We will also hear from another distinguished guest, and Pawel HANSDORFER, the Senior Director of ASECO. It is a technological group, a first-level technological group from Warsaw, and he embodies this common digital fate of both continents. We will also hear from Omar CISSE, the CEO of InTouch, Eva Sow EBION, who is in Senegal, who is the Director of IFO Policy. And last but not least, we will hear from Youssef Tafali, who represents the Africa-Europe Foundation. He's here with us on the stage. And he will actually make a conclusion, and he will be able to conclude today's discussions. These past years, we have seen big giants such as Facebook, Google, SpaceX, with Elon Musk, who wants to conquer the last digital frontier with different applications, Starlink, news. They want to connect all the continent's users to the internet, an internet connection coming from space, usually called new space. So this issue, this question is crucial to ensure African sovereignty. So what can we do since Europe faces the same issues of digital sovereignty? So that will be an event that will be organized in Brussels that will give us the opportunity to implement this vision and to reinvent the relationship between both continents in the field of digital technology. So what are the common points? What draws us together, Europeans and Africans, and how can we have a shared vision of these really important challenges? Mr. Minister Papa AMADOU will soon connect. He will talk about his vision of how can Senegal become a pioneer in digital strategy for digital sovereignty. So we're waiting for him, and waiting for him, I will turn towards Antoine SEBERA. Africa is not the new digital hub of the world with great opportunities.
For its innovation policy, what strategies should government adopt to face a competing Asia-USA pressure? And what is the current strategy of Rwanda in this regard? Monsieur SEBERA, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Mr. SEBERA, can you hear me? I think there's a connectivity issue. So this is the plenary. These issues are common. So I'll turn towards Eva, who is in Dakar. Eva, so we've mentioned these digital superpowers and unicorns. We've talked about it this morning. It is fascinating to see African unicorns, and together we counted the 7 African unicorns. So how can African countries encourage the emergence of these unicorns who can compete with web giants? Thank you very much, Samir. I am delighted to take part in this discussion, and I hope you can hear me well. There's an echo. So we were talking about digital transformation today, and it can play a crucial role in pushing companies so we can get unicorns on the continent. So if we want to ensure a digital transformation, we need to start from basics. So we need, first of all, to increase the connectivity areas, because if we go beyond urban areas, there are still some rural areas who struggle to connect to the internet, and it is quite difficult for them to access services and the internet. So that's how we could lay the foundation of a new business, and that could enable us to turn towards growth opportunities. This also shows we need to raise awareness about digital skills. And many countries of the continent, among which Senegal, by 2025, so the Senegal has experienced the digital transformation. It has used it to increase its GDP. Connectivity was 4G connectivity was extended, so it sped up connectivity for locals, and there has been some progress in Kenya too. So, but I think at the center of our discussion is the necessity, the need to offer a decent connectivity, a decent connection. So if we improve the internet connection, so for local communities, because they are the one who provide us with opportunities, and you mentioned young people, and we know now that there's a lot of entrepreneurship going on the continent, and there's an index that shows that our region is one of the most vibrant regions of Africa as for entrepreneurship, but we states must be able to meet the challenges they face so that they can support companies' growth and turn them into unicorn. And in order to do that, they need to do three things. First of all, we need to take the current entrepreneurship ecosystem and do some capacity building, and entrepreneurs should be mentors and support other entrepreneurs. We need also to ensure some funding mechanisms. There have been some effort these past years, but we need more effort in research and development. There are not many funding offers being accessible and inclusive. And lastly, I do think that the regulatory framework is one of the main issues. And governments in countries like Rwanda have understood that they needed to turn towards co-creation so they can build a fit regulatory framework. And it's quite interesting to see that these companies can grow if entrepreneurs are at the heart of this policy. We need a bottom-up approach, and we need different policies and different digital technology development. So those are the two main topics on which we should work. We should support entrepreneurs, help them grow, and then we should also provide support to the technology users. Thank you very much, Eva, and thank you very much for your expertise. You provide advice to many governments. We can hear you very well. We heard you. Everything's fine, as you can see. And now I will give the floor to Omar CISSE. Can you hear us? Yes. We say we want Africa to become a digital superpower, so we need to talk about data and especially about protecting personal data. So how can we protect personal data when there is the lowest number of data centers in Africa? And can we find a solution to these problems through companies like yours, InTouch, which plays a crucial role with African SMEs? This is a really interesting question, Samir. We face this issue every day. As you know, we have developed our company in various countries where we opened a branch, and we have also launched our business in 11 countries. And we've had very different experiences. If you take Morocco, for example, we've been working in Morocco for over 2 years. And we're trying to get a permit to use personal data, and it is a very different process from everything we've done in West Africa, especially in French-speaking West Africa, because we know more about their registration process, or it is much more simple to register the company. Now, if we take Nigeria, the state has implemented a law that forces service providers to host data locally. That was a great achievement because it ensures we can ensure better control of data. However, these models are not well supported because this law isn't always respected, because someone can say, hey, I'm hosting this data locally, while most of the data is stored elsewhere. Moreover, there are no monitoring mechanism in place. So we know some startups haven't been respecting the law. So the law must come with monitoring mechanisms so they can be meaningful. For us, it is crucial to provide quality services to our customers. That's why we think we should do it while abiding by the law. But as you said, there are too few data centers on the continent, and we don't have much choice. As for the partners we work with, and it impacts the quality of our services. So now can we offer a platform that will have the same cost, the same quality level as in AWS or Amazon or Woodland, which host us? So that's an interesting question, an open question. It is a whole issue. It is a discussion we must have in order to ensure data protection. We must protect our data, but we should do it while providing quality services. And we want to know if there are measures in place to ensure that the law is respected. Thank you very much for your input and for your expertise. And now I see that Antoine is connected. Antoine, you're the
pioneer on the continent for its innovation policy. What strategies should governments adopt to face growing pressure from Silicon Valley and Asia in terms of digital sovereignty? And what is the current strategy of Rwanda in this regard?
Thank you very much, and my apologies for being briefly disconnected. I believe you can hear me well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Very good. So I think regardless of any competition, first of all, it is very important for every country to have digital strategies and plans to address their own development agenda, putting in the right place investment in people, in infrastructure, and driving key transformative projects. We need to first address our challenges and continue to build our capacity to be competitive. And this does not exclude being competitive at a much larger scale, talking about the big players. When you look at the big players in the, the digital economy, in our opinion, they present both threats and also opportunities. Threats because they are large in their scope, in their market reach. But again, in our building our competitiveness, for us, it's to see how we focus more on original and innovative solutions rather than trying to capture a market share in crowded economies. As an example, instead of focusing on doing a couple of copycat initiatives to try to put your own social media or reinventing search engine, Africans have unique success stories that they can build upon. For example, we've seen Africa driving the trend in fintech. Mobile money was born out of Africa. We've seen example of delivering blood and other medicine by drone, which was also initiated in Rwanda before many other countries. And we're seeing also some trend in using AI in health. So what is critical is not to try to reinvent what others have done. They are already so far. Very difficult to compete with the majors in the internet. There's few things that you can do by regulation, but it's how you position yourself toward more innovation. And we have a lot of positive things. We don't have so much legacy systems in place. And also our regulatory environment is not yet that constraining and complex. So coming back to our strategy as Rwanda, we've been looking to position ourselves in the context of Rwanda and more as a proof of concept destination, whereby we collaborate with innovative companies, being large or even smaller, to pilot innovative solutions in a very attractive and conducive environment and look at how you can expand them on a much wider market, taking into consideration the relatively small size of our country. This has been working well for Rwanda, but again, it's not a formula that can work for everyone. What we will strongly advocate is to put in place national strategies, building the capacity, and in doing that, making sure we have the right instrument in place to protect our citizens for all their data protection and privacy requirements, proper IP protection. We need to make sure that the startups that are bringing innovation on the market are properly protected to expand to other geographies and continuing to build skills. To compete, we need to have in place a critical mass of talent and skills, and encouraging more local startups, which we have been doing by creating a strong innovation ecosystem for local Rwandan startups, but as well seeing how we build synergies with the rest of the region and inviting other startups to come to Rwanda, so we have a kind of cross-fertilization of good ideas and bringing back on the market much more innovative solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. SEBERA. It's very, very important to have really digital. Je pense est connecté maintenant. I would like to ask you a question, Pawel. You are the Africa Director of ASECO. ASECO is a Poland-based European technology company. And Eastern Europe, Central Europe, Eastern Europe, is a relative new actor on the African landscape. And it's very interesting to have your vision as a European country that is not traditionally linked with African markets as France, for example, is by history. So why is this relationship important to you? Could you already describe what ASECO is doing today in Africa?
Hello. Thank you very much, Samir, for inviting me to that conference. And I would say we've got a lot of in common with everybody who is here. Actually, 30 years ago, ASECO was a small company, a very small startup. And throughout this 30 years, it becomes the biggest IT company in the Central and Eastern Europe, and now present in 27 countries with over 27,000 employees. And we started our African journey, so we developed as very rapidly in Europe as actually the market economy grown in our region. And then we ask ourselves a question, how we can expand and where we can expand. So definitely with our products and competing with France and US or India or China, that's a big issue. So we focus ourselves on the African market, and we started in 2015. So throughout this 6 years right now, we are present in 10 African countries. And we humbly would say that this is a big success. What is the strategy? First of all, many companies which think of entering into the African market put it as under one umbrella. And each in African country is different. Each of them has a different needs, and as we hear, Rwanda has some different needs, West Africa totally different, SADC region also different view on different needs. So we are trying not to go and sell classically our products. So this is our core banking system, or maybe this is our civil registry system, Mr. Customer, maybe please pick one. No, we are trying together with the governments or together with the key players on the market to search what the challenges and try to answer the question how with our experience we can answer to this challenge. If we find the right solution, if we find the right answer, then it becomes quite interesting and success story. And what I want to emphasize, actually, what our Rwanda speaker said, very important is building the local capacity. What we are focusing and underlining and putting a lot of effort in our project is to actually build the local capacity in Africa. That's also the credo of ASECO, that we develop ourselves locally and pay taxes locally. That's the slightly different approach from the classical US corporation or the big players on the market. For example, in Ethiopia, we were delivering a big IT systems for the managing entire country electricity. And we started that in 2017, and we built it with 100% by the hands of Ethiopians. So we teach them and learn them how to develop the system, how to customize it, and then actually they developed it and implemented by their own. So that was a big success in 2019, and they are totally independent right now. So that's our credo. Same story, and actually here was a question about the data protection and the sovereignty. I think this is a very important that one thing is building or choosing such a way of developing the projects in Africa, which is no legacy, and this is a greenfield for IT. And also, we strongly believe that it will develop rapidly in the next few years. So choosing the way of developing the projects in that manner that the capacity will remain in that countries. Same story we had in Central Europe when actually that part was entering to the European Union. So you're asking me how is the link, And I would say the link in the history is actually for us an advantage, because we had that transformation and the digitalization and the rapid digitalization on actually we feel it with our shoulders and our experience. So we've got in our part of Europe, we've got something unique to share with Africa, is our experience how to process the digital revolution for the governments, the digital revolution for the thinking of the citizen, how to handle, for example, now in a COVID era, how to handle all the things with the government, how I can apply digitally for services. So many countries in Africa are developed in not an even way, and that's the really finding a right approach is a key here. So we also get, as I said, a totally different story for each of the countries. For example, in Angola, we find such a unicorn or a company which we bought, and right now 70% of the capital market is using our software there. So that's a different approach, different countries, and the history is not for us a problem here, rather an advantage.
It's rather an advantage. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pawel. It's very interesting to have this point of view from a Central European country that is strongly involved in digital affairs on the African continent. Je crois que Monsieur le ministre Papa Amadou Sarr s'est connecté. Monsieur le ministre, est-ce que vous nous entendez?
Mr. Minister, sir, can you hear me? Yes, good evening, sir. Always a pleasure to have you here at Emerging Valley. You are here every year for this event, and it's a great pleasure for us. You bring your vision and the strategy of national digital. Mr. Papa Mamoussa, you really are at the ADER and attached to the Senegal presidency, and you have a few minutes, sir, to present your vision in terms of digital assertion and how you deploy this strategy to other countries throughout the continent. First of all, sorry, I was on the and Teams. I was working, sorry about that, on the Teams link. And maybe, Samir, the best thing is for you to ask me a few questions instead of my reading out a presentation. Yes, sir. We need a strong system that has to help, that should help startups, and it's become a real locomotive, a driving force for the digital scene in Senegal. And how is Senegal showing the way, how does it make the startups the flagship for digital sovereignty?
Ok, je vous demandais, Monsieur le Ministre, comment est-ce qu'aujourd'hui l'ADER...
I asked you, sir, how does the ADER, how does it become the startups with the support of your administration? How can this become the economic drive for Senegal? Yes, thank you very much for this question. First of all, I would like to present my warm greetings to all of these people, Wanda, Ahmad, and Omar, and others. And I'm so pleased to share this panel with you. And I would just like to say in a few words that
est-ce que la régie peut réparer?
Yes, I hope that we can get this fixed by the technical department. We'll be coming back to you in a few moments You are disconnected, apparently. And so now I will ask Eva. Eva, how on this new partnership, Africa-Europe, which is actually with the digital input, how is it an opportunity, and how to strengthen dialogue amongst the two countries, the two areas? And of course, how is this? Can this new partnership exist with African startups? Okay, Samir, I don't think you can hear. I hear you. I can hear you very well. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay. So, okay, Omar, go ahead. Omar, the Africa-Europe partnership will really be at the on the agenda of the next summit. And so what do these companies expect, and what contribution can these African startups give to the African continent? And then I'll ask Eva.
Vous en ligne.
Allô?
Omar, si tu veux. Et ensuite, je reviens.
Samir.
Monsieur le ministre,
So if we have the minister with us, then we will continue with the news. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. I was cut off at the office. So talking about digital systems, we will be supporting the startups and small and medium-sized companies, academics to have access to funding, because of course that's the name of the game. And in the past 3 years, we gave about 7 billion CFAs, African francs, about 10 million euros, to the digital sector. And so also for artificial intelligence. We also work with some of the stakeholders that are already there and that have talked about this in Senegal, and it is being applied almost everywhere throughout the continent. And we're working with Tunisia, that was the pioneer before Senegal, actually. And so this digital area, they have set up a data center, and they have the support of the government, so that all of the public entities or para-public mixed groups can. I think everything is going very smoothly today. With all of these facilities that, of course, have nothing to envy from those in the States or Morocco or wherever. And there is work on promoting digital and the technological stock of hardware as well. But beyond the data center, there's a supercalculator that we have set up, and all of the whole ecosystem, governmental ecosystem, that is getting digitalized as well, with the IT development of the state. And so there's 10% that we are planning on by 2025, and so the challenge is placed quite high, but the state is giving it a place sufficiently large in order to succeed. And what I would like to say is we at the General Delegation for Women and Youth, we have placed a wager on digital systems, not just the startups, but to all sectors, from agriculture to husbandry, pastoral agriculture, in a cross-cutting way, in order to gain time. And of course, COVID was a strong accelerator in this, because thanks to COVID, we must say, a lot of the procedures were dematerialized within the government at the state level, in health and private sectors, delivery, home services, hospitality, etc. And also what we are doing even today in a virtual manner, this conference. And so this now is more often at a distance. This is what I wanted to say in general to start, and maybe to end as well if there are no questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. A real pleasure, Mr. Minister, having you with us at the head of Entrepreneur Rapide. And so now, Omar, if in 2 minutes you can take up where we left off for the African startups and Africa-Europe partnership, small and medium-sized companies, the SMEs. Well, I think in as much as some sectors still have an imbalance in the way that, you know, with our exchange between European and African firms, I think that in terms of technology, I think we are quite well outfitted, and we have good cooperation in this area. What I mean is that in our sector, for example, in some of the markets that I have, or the contracts that I have followed, what hit me a lot was the question of street lamps in Senegal. For me, this always comes up because the meaning of partnering actually between the various partners should be very different. I can't explain why we still import in millions of euros for street lamps. Whereas, you know, why don't we have cooperation and have our own plants and factories to manufacture these? So Europe has. Okay, I think we once again have a connection problem. So Omar, we'll come back to you. Eva, can you hear me? And other structures in our capital, for example, Sao. Okay, the connection is not good, Omar, so we're going to try to get a better line, but we haven't heard you for the past minute, and we'll come back a bit later, hoping that it's going to be better. But right now, I would like to ask Eva the question about strengthening dialogue between the continents. How can this new partnership exist with African startups and digital, and how can it work for the next summit? Thank you very much, Samir. I lost half the question, but I think it was dealing with partnerships between European and African startups. And what message would you like to deliver before the Europe-Africa Summit? Well, I think that it would be how to succeed today and how to be able, amongst all of the stakeholders, and how to get all of the European entities to sit down around the table, around a common project. For example, we were able to steer an interesting project regarding co-creation in Africa that was brought to different 200 hubs throughout the continent, and we were able to influence through this manifesto a lot of companies throughout the continent, but also through this we were able to do work groups between the European Union and Africa, and especially projects of strategy of digital transformation and the African Union. And we were never be able to do that if we didn't have a centralized system that would enable the entrepreneurs to be committed to these and have better access to a platform and the dialogue, and to be able to do it at a certain level and at a certain scale, so that it would have a certain influence with respect to the strategy. And also, how can we through the priorities that are defined along the continent, how can we push to co-development of the project that takes into account the entrepreneurial ecosystem and its priorities, and to have a good exchange with the European stakeholders that would take into account these priorities and local realities. There are one of the other points too, and that seems really important to me in terms of message, is to bring more of a context, and I think it's important. We need more context. So, you know, what about this multi-partite mechanisms? Because this would encourage the processes that are more inclusive and would enable in this process not only, you know, to have both parties present, but also to have the parties south to north or north to south as well. That would create a better balance. Yes, yes, we can hear you. Everything's fine. Okay, very good. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly end by saying that the message that I wanted to bring was the implementation of these various priorities and programs or projects that are set up, and being able to create enough space so that really the local communities can take advantage of the development of such projects, and implement programs, initiatives, etc., that that would last longer, be really long-lasting, and in larger scale, and that would be borne by the local inhabitants and not something that would come from outside. So that my message would be how to rebalance the dialogue, how can it be more inclusive with respect to actors that aren't lucky enough to be invited to these various events, and how can we have them appropriate these priorities for themselves, and use these initiatives and local programs so that they can be part of a local vision, and that the local vision itself be over the long term.
Thank you very much, Eva, for sharing your vision. Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Eva. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. You take part in this event every year. So,
Summit, what could digital bring to the table to change the narrative between the two continents?
Thank you very much for the question. I think digital has a lot to bring on the table, especially in the context of the ongoing pandemic. We've seen a lot that IT and technology has brought to react to the pandemic, to speed up the vaccination, and also to build our resiliency to continue providing critical services. And digital also is an important ally, I will say, for addressing global challenges such as climate change, look at rapid population growth, rapid urbanization, the energy transition, aging population, job market disruption, and the threat of cyber crimes that goes beyond borders, beyond continent. So we need to bring the key message of bringing digital transformation at the core of all our strategies as we thrive to build back better, taking the lesson from the pandemic. So we see technology in a lot of opportunities to educate better, to reduce the burden of scarcity of qualified medical professionals. In the example of using AI in digital health, we still have a lot of, still a small number of medical professionals, the doctors, the nurses. We have also to address the issues of making our cities smarter. There's rapid growth of population and urbanization rate across Africa. More and more people will living in the cities, maybe 50%. We're starting to see mega cities of more than 10 million across the continent. If we do not address them correctly, we're working toward creating more challenges for both our continent and also Europe, neighboring continent as well. So we see this as an opportunity to create more partnership with the EU, address the connectivity gap, digital literacy, opportunity for building better the enabling environment, and a more inclusive digital space, and seeing Africa as a partner. A lot has been happening, strong ecosystem of innovators and startups, which can bring something to EU as well, and of course addressing other global challenges such as trustworthy AI and cross-border data flows, to mention a few. So in summary, digital will bring a lot to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. SEBERA. Thank you very much, Antoine. Il nous reste très peu de temps. Il nous reste moins de...
Thank you very much. We have a few minutes left. So, Mr. Minister, do you want to make some closing remarks before we turn to our guest speaker to give a conclusion? So, Mr. Minister, what are your expectations from the next Africa-Europe Summit, and how can digital technologies can bring up a change in Africa? There are discussions underway between French and Senegalese authorities because they will hold the presidency of the summit. So that's all I know. I don't know what's going to happen for the different unions, but I know they will focus on youth. Youth will be at the center of the agenda, and if we talk about youth, we think about digital technologies, and as such, we think about digital transformation. As for Senegal, I think that the head of state will implement a measure about the use of these technologies. It will use technologies to improve people's lives, especially for young people. We will try to improve training courses at the university level so we can guarantee a greater access to technology, and we can ensure digital equality. I think that the African and European partnerships will make sure to collect huge funds so that Africa can reduce the gap between both continents. And I think that European and African authorities are working in focus groups who will put forward proposals to the heads of state during the summit that will take place in Brussels in February. As for your roadmap, I think that one of the crucial question you can raise at the summit is which measures can support Africa's access to more data? How can we support Africa to create solid partnerships with the web giants? And how can we improve connectivity in African states that encounter connectivity issues? How can we also promote strong partnerships between European and African universities? As for Erasmus Mundus, so we can actually encourage knowledge to circulate between Africa and Europe. Finally, what we do here is to try and help African states to access quality funding so that we can strengthen youth entrepreneurship in the digital technologies field. Thank you very much for this vision from your ministry. I know you've had an active role in the organization of this Africa-Europe Summit. This is the end of this last plenary session, and now I turn to Youssef. Can you sum up the main ideas that were put forward by within this debate? So I would like to thank the Africa-Europe Foundation. We tackled two main topics. First of all, the digital sovereignty, and secondly, we also talked about the message we want to convey at the summit. As for digital sovereignty, I think it is crucial each country has a national strategy, and this strategy must be supplemented by implementation tools, as well as a local talent development. Secondly, we talked about data and data infrastructure and data governance. I noticed that there's no Pan-African approach, and we should work on this. We should strike a balance between data protection and the quality of data storage services. So we will need to work on this seriously. Now, can Africa produce unicorns? Can it be a unicorn factory? Well, I take three recommendations. We should improve growth. We should also do some capacity building with relevant financial tools. And thirdly, we should ensure the setup of a regulatory framework of whom we would be the entrepreneurs. We will be at the center of the policy they promote. As for the message we want to convey and put on the table at the summit, well, there are several messages we can send. So first of all, we need to find a new balance within the dialogue, and I really liked what Omar said. We need collaboration, knowledge-based collaboration at the African level. So, for example, we need vaccines, and we're trying to stop producing vaccines within Africa, and that goes for many other sectors. Then another really interesting point was raised: the partnership. So, creating partnership with the web giants, and creating partnerships with universities. And I'll conclude, it is a crucial point. We have talked about exchanging knowledge between Africa and Europe, and I think this is key to strengthen this partnership. Thank you very much, Youssef. This is the end of this digital dialogue session. And I would like to thank all our panelists. First of all, Mr. Minister Papa AMADOU, Minister responsible for fast entrepreneurship for women and youth. I would like to thank Antoine SEBERA. He is the Government Chief Innovation Officer of Rwanda government. Thank you very much, Antoine, from Kigali. I would like to thank Pawel Hansdorfer, the Senior Director of International Business for Africa. He came over from Warsaw to share his vision with us. Thank you, Pawel. Thank you, Eva, the Director of IFO Policy. She has often attended Emerging Valleys. You're here with us every year. Thank you so much. And finally, Omar CISSE, the founder of In Touch, who doesn't need presenting, is one of our sponsors too. Dear Omar, thank you very much for being here. Give a round of applause to Omar. And finally, of course, Youssef Cavalier. He has been the rapporteur of this dialogue, and he will now work on the recommendations that will be addressed to the next Africa-Europe Summit. Thank you very much, Youssef.
Closing ceremonies now.
So first of all, please stand on your feet for so we can take a last picture for the last session.
Merci beaucoup. Nous arrivons maintenant à la clôture officielle de la manifestation Emerging Valley qui a été.
And now we will officially close this 5th edition of Emerging Valley. It was definitely intense, so it is now over. You are free to go.
Et on vous applaudit.
Let's give them a round of applause. And here we are at the end of this 5th edition of Emerging Valley. It was intense, and there was a lot of contacts, a lot of exchanges, a lot of visions, a lot of initiatives. We co-created, there has been a co-creation, this has been a challenge to organize. So I would like to thank the whole team, and I would ask them all, I would ask to the whole team of Emerging Valley to come join me on stage. So let's give them a huge round of applause.
Most of the people that
You can put the music on. This is the end. So please.
Voilà, l'équipe. Je vais bien entendu saluer l'équipe qui est en ligne et qui n'a pas pu être avec nous. Je pense à Maria, je pense à Camille, je pense à Selim, qui ne peut pas être parmi nous. Ce travail qui est absolument intense, formidable, et je suis très fier et je vous félicite pour tout ce que vous avez fait ces dernières semaines pour faire d'Emerging Valley une véritable réussite. Bravo à vous et je vous demande de les applaudir très fort. Et je vais également vous demander à vous tous qui êtes dans la salle.
please come up. If all of those of you who are in the hall, please come up to the stage and we will take a huge photo of all of us together. Yes, do applaud yourselves. Come on, up with you for the final photo of the closing session of Emerging Valley 2021.
Pas timide. Mama, au premier rang, Mama, il faut montrer le savoir-faire artisanal de la Mauritanie.
Come on, Mama, up you come. You have to show the know-how of Mauritania.
Amira, vous pouvez venir. Venez.
Come on, Amira, over here with you. Mama, come to the front, please. Come on, show us what you offer with your startup. Melisandre, Estelle, here we are. Still people there. You don't want to come up? Oh, come on. Okay, I think this edition is a memorable one. And see you in 2022 for the 5th edition of in December 2022, a year's time. Melisandre, Estelle, come up. Oh, they're hiding. Come on. So, see you in a year's time, 2022, with some surprises at the south of the Mediterranean. And so we will see the Africa-Europe Summit in February for the white paper, Emerging Valley White Paper. And thank you so much, and see you next year.
Bravo à vous.